Wuthering Waves is Kudo Games' new flagship title, a gacha game set to combat the titan that is Genshin Impact. Or at least that's what social media likes to think. Wuwa is an open-world action RPG with many features reminiscent of the aforementioned title, but just because a game takes inspiration from another game doesn't inherently make it a clone, a copy. Just like Genshin Impact took inspiration from Breath of the Wild, if you recall the "angry guy destroys PS4 over Genshin Impact copying Breath of the Wild" meme. Wuthering Waves took inspiration from Genshin Impact, and both games have since established themselves as their very own entities. It has been 2 months since release, and I think it's about time I push out my official review of the game. I've been playing every single day since launch, not missing logging in for a single day, partly because I enjoy staring at Chongli, but watching Chongli from a distance, safe distance, a respectful dist, I enjoy looking at her respectfully. And partly because it takes forever to grind certain materials to upgrade your resonators and your echoes, so a missed day could set you back, and I don't do setbacks. I am dedicated, I am hardworking, I am the flaccid Stix. Unless I stare respectfully at Chongli. Upon loading into the game for the very first time, you're greeted with a beautiful backdrop featuring both the male and the female rover, along with some of the best title screen background music I've heard in a gacha game. Some people prefer the old backdrop, but I honestly like the beauty and realism in this one. The rover, regardless of which gender you decide on, looks phenomenal. I think out of all major gacha games available at the time of this video, Wuthering Waves features the best looking protagonist. Sure, you can argue that, but you'd be wrong, because you can't argue with perfection. I went with the female rover because she has such a great personality. And honestly, she just looks better than Lumine, looks better than Stella, looks better than Belle, or even the female in Tower of Fantasy. You know, the one you see at the beginning when you're with your brother, the complete stranger you met while running around. I don't know, the male that you never see ever again. There's just something about the female rover that just appealed to me. After selecting your gender, you're immediately greeted with a long, arduous tutorial that can be summarized as teaching a marathon runner how to walk like he's a cripple. Here's an example.
Hey, do you know you can walk?
Wait, for real? That is awesome!
Yeah, you can also run up walls like Spooderman.
Wait, wow, that is so cool! You know,
woo, yeah, woo!
Wait, no, not up, no, oh. Well, yeah, they're dead. So, Young, what are you doing later?
After making it through the tutorial, you're greeted with an enormous open world to explore, filled with dangerous enemies, especially if you tackle patch content, like Mount Firmament too early. There are puzzles to solve, treasure chests to loot, side quests to partake of, and lots of Yang talking, which there would be considerably less of had they told her that it was acceptable to talk at normal human speed. But if you're more interested in simply exploring what the world has to offer, then there's dozens of hours worth of map completion, something that I have yet to even finish, mostly because I lack the attention span to wait, what's that? While the vast majority of the world is unlocked immediately upon completion of the introductory sequences, there are still features locked behind story progression, which brings us to my first major complaint with Wuthering Waves. Its lackluster first few chapters. As you continue to progress through the game, you'll notice, especially after Scar is introduced, Jinta becomes a more focal point of the story, and Yang, Chisha, and Baija all become much less important background characters, thank God, that the story really picks up around chapter 4. Finding the patience to actually sit through chapters 1 through 3, however, is something even Gandhi would struggle with. It is arduously so. It is definitely convoluted. It could have easily been condensed into a fraction of what we received. And the English voice acting up until chapter 4 was pretty bad. After making it to chapter 4, if you manage to avoid skipping through the story, as Wuwa does offer that as a feature, Genshin could never, you'll hit a point where the story becomes much more intriguing. Scar is introduced, the organization he's a part of is slightly introduced, the main villains of the base story are uncovered. Chapter 5 is a remarkable improvement over Chapter 4, especially with the inclusion of Encore and Alto, and it sets up an incredible conclusion in Chapter 6, featuring Gion and a certain other character that definitely brings the voice acting to a whole nother level. I got rock hard just listening to two fully grown men grunt and yell at each other. If they had started with the voice acting and story pacing in Chapter 5 and 6, I think the narrative would have received a significantly better reception. However, I also want to point out here that I do understand the world and characters needed to be built. I get that world building is necessary. It establishes characters, personalities, organizations, scenarios. So I can give the slow start a pass. It does pick up relatively fast, and overall I think the payoff in Chapter 6 was incredible. Chapter 7 was an even larger improvement than Chapter 6, however, and is arguably one of the best told segments I've seen in a gacha game. I will not spoil anything, but the voice acting is completely different to any chapter before it. The area, the characters, everything about Chapter 7 feels like it was created after they had long since finished the base game. The characters no doubt have the story on their backs right now, and are feeling the pressure. Speaking of, your characters, referred to as resonators, are perhaps the most detailed, best animated characters in the gacha genre. There is no competition. It doesn't matter what parts of Wuwa you hate, the character models and animations cannot be one of them. Unless I guess you prefer the ugly characters, in which case, yeah, sure. The women look like women, the men look like men, and there are no 1,000-year-old lolly dragons. Every resonator looks and feels unique with their own unique fighting style, weapon skills, and Wuwa utilizes a few interesting systems that I want to take a moment to touch on. First, echoes. Echoes function like gear. They have 2-piece and 5-piece set effects. Every echo has their own unique ability, along with stats that benefit your resonator directly. For an easy reference point, these can be compared to artifacts in Genshin Impact or relic sets in Honkai Star Rail. However, unlike the aforementioned games, echoes are farmable infinitely in the open world. Echoes are merely monsters of varying difficulty and rarity, and to complete your set, you're required to use a mixture of boss and ordinary rarity monsters, as every monster has a cost requirement, and you're allotted a maximum cost limit discernible at the top left of the screen. Echoes have their own elemental affinity, much like resonators do, so it's imperative you focus on echoes that, excuse the pun, resonate best with each respective hero, especially given the echo equipped onto your first slot becomes a combat active ability, allowing you to transform into the monster in question, complete with its own utility. As noted, there are various rarities when it comes to obtaining echoes, which are directly tied to the databank feature. As your databank level increases through the accumulation of rarer monsters, you'll gain access to higher rarity units, along with expanding the cost limit of equipping them. Beyond echoes, you have your fortes, which function like a talent tree, allowing you to upgrade different areas of each respective resonator, providing them beneficial increases in stats, additional passive abilities, and even enhancements to their skills. You'll acquire the materials necessary to upgrade your fortes by merely playing the game, engaging in the various activities present throughout the world. As an addendum to fortes, every resonator has their own resonance skill, a basic ability, a resonance liberation skill, which is their ultimate ability, a forte circuit, which appears above your health bar towards the bottom of your screen and acts like an additional type of ability, and what is arguably the most important resonator feature, intro and outro skills. Intro and outro skills offer some crazy hero ability combinations. These can range from static abilities that remain on field after characters swap out, passive abilities that boost raw or elemental damage output, healing regens. All of these combat features add significant depth to an already very fast combat system. Before I delve any deeper into this review, allow me to thank my incredible patrons over on Patreon and YouTube channel members. Your guys' support is why I can make videos like this every single month, and I deeply appreciate you all being there for me. Since we're on the topic of combat, this is a bit of a contentious opinion to have, but I think Wuwa has the most fun, engaging action combat in the genre. Yes, better than PGR. Yes, better than Zenless, and definitely better than Tower of Fantasy. I am well aware that there are probably ZZZ fans or even Punishing Varyun fans here that are like, oh, Stix's opinion is trash. Clearly, he's never played enough of my game to know that Wuwa's combat doesn't even come close to the depth or complexity, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sure, that very well might be true. But from what I've played, of every single action gacha out there, Wuwa's combat just feels the most fluid and rewarding to me. Perfect dodges, parries, a deep resonator and echo system that adds so many additional layers to combat, providing opportunities to build your characters in ways that other games just don't typically allow. Add on to that the resonator synergies, like just take Verena here for example. Her intro skill, when you swap to her, deals spectro damage. That's pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things. However, her outro skill, when you swap off of her, not only provides a 19% regen based off of her attack stat, but you gain the added benefit of a 15% damage amplification to all nearby allies, including your own resonator, for 30 seconds. This is further enhanced by Gift of Nature, which is activated under certain conditions, and boosts the attack for all party members by a further 20% for 20 seconds. Chaining abilities, passives, intros, outros, taking full advantage of elemental and physical synergies add such extensive depth to swapping, team composition, and engagement forethought. As we noted earlier, the animations are stunning, which brings significant emphasis and impact to every action, especially during ultimate abilities when you see your waifu in all her glory, or when walking around, running around, using the elevator. There are plenty of unique, interesting ways to appreciate the characters in this game, respectfully, of course. This is made more evident by the hologram bosses that you'll engage out in the world, where if you're as mechanically challenged as I am, your lack of skill will become apparent very quickly. They don't call me flaccid Stix for nothing. I have the reflexes of a wet noodle. Wuthering Waves can be a very difficult game, and this difficulty is only magnified by the number of game modes and content present. Backtracking to resonators real quick, like every gacha, every hero and echo has their own level. You attain levels through XP items, with both heroes and echoes utilizing separate resources, and breakthrough level limitations with unique materials that you grind out in the world or through instance dungeons. Weapons function the exact same way, both providing large boosts in terms of damage, survivability, and overall performance. Resonators are also upgraded through their resonance chain, which is where you consume duplicate resonators you acquire through the gacha, or if you have enough Afterglow Coral built up from the gacha pulls, the item exchange. Wuthering Waves actually allows for players to purchase resonator wave bands with excess currency they acquire through pulling characters, both limited and standard, rewarding you with additional opportunities to upgrade resonators you wouldn't typically find in most gachas. The cash app is also relatively fair. Your normal $5 monthly subscription, refreshing bundles each patch, free leveling bundles, lots of options to expend all that accumulated coral on in the points shop. There's a battle pass present referred to as the Pioneer Podcast, which houses a number of useful items: XP items, stamina restoration items, currency, free pulls for the gacha, tuners for your echoes. Every refresh of the battle pass, if you purchase a premium option, you'll also be gifted additional rewards, including a free 5-star weapon of your choice. The gacha in Wuthering Waves is referred to as convening. Like all gacha games, Wuwa has both limited and standard banners. Limited banners cycle through over the course of each major patch. At the time of recording, Changli is the current limited banner resonator, with Jeji coming in the near future. And while I have Changli now, I will admit it was not easy to obtain her. It cost $150 a couple days ago after I failed pity. So earlier this morning, I decided I was going to take out a loan to S6 her. When the banker asked me what I needed this loan for, I merely looked him in the eye and slowly slid a picture of Changli across the table. With a mere glance, I could tell he knew. He looked back, he gave me a small smile, and just nodded as he slowly slid the paperwork over for me to sign. He knew. He knew. While there are hero banners, there are also weapon banners to roll for. When pulling on a limited banner, you're guaranteed a 5-star rarity unit at 80 pulls, soft pity, with a 50-50 chance of obtaining the banner character on display, which, as noted, I failed. If you fail, at your next pity, hard pity, 160 pulls in, you'll be guaranteed the resonator. Weapons, however, are guaranteed at 80 pity. There is no 50-50 for weapon banners, thankfully. Honestly, this is not a horrible gacha system. It's much fairer than a lot of its competition, but definitely a reasonable distance for being as free-to-play friendly as Kudo's other gacha, Punishing Grey Raven. Wuwa has a functional co-op mode that is much more interactive and generous than Genshin Impact. A common complaint I heard within Genshin was the inability to really share or do much. That's a little different in Wuwa, as not only can you share materials, or more accurately, not only can your friends raid your world for upgrade materials, resources, not only can you fight bosses together and share the rewards, but you can also freely farm echoes out in the world together. So my wife and I go to each other's worlds and farm the echoes we need in unison. This adds additional avenues and activities to do with other players. I've seen players spend hours grinding together. This was definitely a good direction to take co-op, however I definitely think it could have benefited more from additional co-op modes like dungeons, maybe allow for shared hologram boss fights. It might trivialize it a little, sure, but you could scale the fights depending on how many players were present, make it into like a small raid boss. The options are endless. Now, if exploring the world, grinding echoes, failing to eliminate the hologram bosses, I mean, I can't be the only one that has trouble with them, right? Pursuing the story or engaging in side quests is not your thing, absolutely no problem. You can skip most of that and make your way over to the Tower of Adversity, where you'll slowly clear various levels with a team that has a limited amount of vigor, requiring you make use of several different teams to overcome. This is not a mode that you are meant to clear overnight. It's a mode that you're slowly going to build up to clearing as you level, as you equip and upgrade your resonators. This is a type of endgame that not everyone is going to be interested in, and that is fine. WoWA offers players a lot to do, although like all gacha games, once you do clear everything, once you loot every chest, once you defeat every enemy, solve every puzzle, upgrade every resonator, fap to every waifu, you'll learn very quickly that there really isn't actually anything to do presently. Not that there won't be in the future, and I understand that given we are only in 1.1, and therefore the finite amount of content is totally understandable. At this point, you're going to likely opt to just log in daily, clear your daily and weekly missions, and log off. Not because the game is bad, but because once you've completed the game and whatever patch it's currently on, you'll be running around a stagnant world void of new content. Again, this is not something that is specific to WoWA. This is an issue that every gacha game tends to have, which is why I play several gacha games at any given time. Punishing Grey Raven, Nikke, Blue Archive, Arknights, Guardian Tales. This way, it allows me to log in, to do my dailies, and then play through whatever other game I want to play that has an event or a recent patch released. I think overall, Wuthering Waves has definitely become a main game for me. I log in every single day and I haven't missed a day since launch. I love the combat, I love how difficult it can be, I love the bosses, I love the content available, the Tower of Adversity, the hologram bosses, the echo grinding, the depths of the elusive realm and other events. The characters are gorgeous, the animations are flawless, being able to grapple to higher levels, run up walls as opposed to solely climb. They add depth and layers to exploration, making it more fun, more enjoyable. The voice acting was admittedly quite horrible for a while, in English anyway, but it has gotten significantly better, especially in patch 1.1. The story was equally as poor quality for the first few chapters as the voice acting was, but I can give it a pass once again due to being related to world building. By the end of 1.1, however, it became one of my favorite gacha stories. I love being able to farm my gear echoes endlessly. I just wish we had more materials with which to level them, as I hate tuning them and getting 2 or 3 defense or HP substats. Goddamn, it kills my momentum to keep grinding. The world is enormous and filled with things to find, things to do. Puzzles were a little bit repetitious though and didn't really offer much in terms of challenge. I also appreciate how generous Kudo have been with the game. Wuthering Waves didn't have the best launch month. There were issues with localization, latency, performance, nothing game-breaking, no duplication exploits, no plagiarism, but definitely irritating for some players. I'll admit I never encountered any difficulties myself, but I know that some people did. Kudo adequately compensated us though, so much so that their first month revenue was directly affected. To give you guys an example.
Sir, we mistranslated some text on a weapon. What do we do? Okay, I know exactly how to handle this. Go ahead and give everybody a free tentpole.
Oh my god, the devs listened.
Sir, we accidentally leaked thousands of private player emails. What do we do? Okay, I know exactly how to handle this. Go ahead and give every single player a free tentpole.
Oh my god, the devs listened.
Sir, we've free 5-star selector. Yeah, that'll shut them up.
Oh my god, the devs listened!
We got so many free 10 polls, both limited and standard, along with a guaranteed 5-star selector at the expense of Kudo's revenue. They could have potentially milked more money out of their players had they not chosen to be as generous as they were, but this built a level of rapport with their players, showing that they are in fact passionate about the game and genuinely care about the players playing it. Certain other games and studios could learn from this, although I feared that this has made the players a little bit more entitled to freebies, compensation, and rewards of this magnitude, and I hope that it really doesn't come back to bite them in the ass. Wuthering Waves is a fantastic game. It's no Genshin Impact. It shouldn't be compared to Genshin Impact. They are different games. They fill different niches. At the end of the day, I have a lot of fun in it, and I would rate it after patch 1.1 an 8 out of 10. Pre 1.1, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Post 1.1, an 8. Now, if Wuthering Waves is not a gacha you're at all interested in, absolutely no problem. I got you covered with 2 videos on screen right now that might be more up your alley.